Hello, Tiffany here with Cards Crafty Creations. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another video testing out my new glass pen and the inks that I had gotten on Amazon. I did a video on it a little while ago where I used the inks to see how they colored and how the line work came out on them. So today's video I'm actually going to be using the Simon Says Stamps Delicate Flower stamp set and the Hello Darling stamp set, and my glass pen and the India ink set that I have. And on this video what I'm really trying to determine is can I blend these inks together? Now, they're not alcohol inks. They're not going to blend like Copic markers or Prismacolor markers or anything like that. But can I still get a gradient with them? And can the colors melt together? So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be working on a card like this, and I'm going to use some complementary colors to see how do they work together. Can I get a shading effect on them? So stick with me and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so here's the stamp set that I'll be using, and here is what the finished card looks like. I'm going to be testing how the ink blends together two colors, and I'm going to be using the black to trace the lines. This is the whole ink set, all the colors, red, yellow, blue, green, brown, black, pink, purple, all of those colors are here. And what I'm going to be doing with them is I want to see how, they're obviously not alcohol ink markers, or marking pens, obviously, and they're not alcohol ink. They are a water-based ink, and I want to see what they're going to do if I mix them together. I'm going to use black, yellow, green, and a light blue color, and then I will bring orange in later because I forgot I needed that. But I wanted to, this is what the card will look like when we're done, and I'll go through how I got it to look that way. These are the two stamp sets. So I'm using the Simon Says stamp. These are from the card kit of the month. They're from last year, 2019, and I don't remember what months, but we have the Delicate Flowers set, and then we have the Hello Darling set. I'm going to be using the Lawn Fawn ink, the Licorice Black I believe is what it is, and it is a dye ink. So as I mentioned in the last video, the dye ink can tend to bleed. It can reactivate with the water. So if you don't want any bleeding, you're going to want to use a permanent ink instead of this black licorice ink. Of the stamp set, I'm actually going to use the phrase, the Sending Sunshine Your Way phrase, and a couple of the little flowers. Of this stamp set, I'm just going to use the leaf. The leaf, when you see it stamped, is actually a pretty fine line. And what I want to do is, I wanted to trace it pretty much. I don't necessarily always like to draw. In fact, I don't really like to draw. I'd rather just color. And so I was trying to figure out, is there a way I can use my stamps, because I have quite a few stamps, and if I trace them, do they look like I actually drew them? So it's kind of a cheating way of looking like you drew this handmade card. But I think it does add character instead of it just being a stamp, and then I can get a thicker line. Because for instance, like when I put these flowers down, they're really solid black. And when I got this fine lined leaf, it doesn't quite go together in my mind. So by me tracing it, I can make the line a little thicker, a little more bold to match the bold flowers that I stamped. You're going to need some water, because as you switch colors, you'll want to rinse the nib of the pen off, and then I just have a cloth there to dry the pen between cleanings. That way I'm not putting water into my ink jar, and that way I actually start with a dry pen. This is the pen. I got it from Amazon. It was, I can't remember, $6 or $8. It has like a teardrop nib on it. Some of them come as a straight nib. I haven't tried that one yet. I don't know which one holds more ink. I don't know which one's better. But so far I'm pretty pleased with this one. What I'm going to test is we're going to, oh, also before I go on, some of the glass pens come with pen holders. So when you lay the pen down, it doesn't roll off your table. You can put it in this little, it's just a little tiny thing, and it has a groove, and you can set your pen there. This one didn't come with one because, like I said, it's one of the cheaper ones. So I just have the box there, and I just lay it back in so it doesn't roll all over. So here what I've decided to do is I'm testing the ink to see one dip, how far can this ink go? And so it actually made it to tracing the whole leaf cluster there, which was quite a bit of surface area to cover. Then I decided I wanted to add some more texture to the leaves, so I added some additional lines in the leaves to give them a little bit more character. So that's something else I was able to do with just using the stamp set. I was able to create it beyond just an empty leaf to be colored. It has now some ridging and some extra character. But one dip actually did that whole leaf cluster with my additional textured lines. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Now also, I don't do it so much in this video, but depending on how long you're using the ink jar, what you'll want to keep in mind is that there's the metallic shimmer in it, and it does need to be shaken up. And while you shake it up at the beginning, if you're using it for a long period of time like I'm doing right now, you probably want to close it up and reshake it again to redistribute that metallic, because it's in the meantime settling back down to the bottom. I didn't do that. It didn't bother me. But if you wanted more consistency with your shimmer, you might want to do that depending on how long you use the ink jar. So I'll just go ahead and finish outlining these and adding my additional little characteristics to the leaf. Okay, so I'm done with the lines now, and you can tell that just by doing that added bit, it now matches a little bit better with the bold flowers that I put down. It also gave me the ability to create a thicker stem on the leaf, so I was still able to make it a little bit more personal than just a stamped image. Right here, I'm actually going to be coloring in the letters, and I'll bring in the orange color in a minute. And what I want to do is do kind of a gradient where I'm going from yellow to orange and then have them kind of bleed together in the middle. Like I said, this isn't alcohol ink, so the bleeding you're going to get is just the nature of the ink. So it works best when the yellow that I had colored half the way down was still wet when I put the orange on, because then they kind of blended together. So that was a way to blend the inks together, is that when they were both wet, then they kind of melted into each other. When we get to the leaf part, you'll find that just because the ink dried before I added the extra color to it, it did reactivate it, and they did blend again together. So you'll see that when I get to the leaves. So here I am, I'm starting to color in the leaves, and I only want, because I wanted to blend green and blue together and green and yellow, I did 2 variations of gradient. I wanted to only use the green on part of the leaf, and I chose to do it on the bottom part. And what it does, if I stayed just on the white, the green was very vibrant. If I colored over the black line I drew earlier, it made the green darker. So while the ink set has one color of ink, by it reactivating the black, it in a way created its own darker shade. So I thought that was really interesting. And while some of us don't like when our ink bleeds, for this technique, I think it worked well in doing what I wanted it to do. Now that I'm done with the green, I'm showing that it bled and it pulled in some of the color, what I'm showing here, because I did lose my audio, so I'm having to voice this over. So as you see, here's my example of that was the color of green that it was. If you just had that green on white paper, it's a lot more vibrant than the color that I actually got because it melted with the black. So I'm going to take the blue, and now I want to see how the blue and the green come together. If it is a just blue-green, no melting together, or can I get them to soak into one another? And I think that it did actually work. So just the same as the green, when the blue touched the black, it gave it a darker blue. When the blue was just on solid white, it was more vibrant and bright. Same with the yellow. The yellow picked up some of the black, it gave it a different grade, variation of the yellow. And then when the actual 2 colors did come together, I think in this example, I think they actually did blend quite well together. I think that you can definitely tell there's not just a harsh line between blue and green and yellow. I think that the way that I colored it and how I took those lines and I kind of linked the lines together gave you that gradient just by the technique itself. And when it reactivated the black ink, that helped them blend a little bit more together too. So same with yellow. If I kept it on just the white, it was vibrant. If I touched the black, it got a little darker. But for this technique, this came out exactly how I wanted it to. I was pretty pleased with how the colors were vibrant. I was pleased with how the colors blended, and I was pleased with how long the ink went on your nib, how long it lasted. I was very pleased with the outcome of this. So I hope you enjoyed this card. This is another finished product of it, and I have another video coming soon where I will be using watercolor paper to try and do a gradient as well. So come back soon, I'll have another video.